The resources unit contains a variety of links to websites and documents that you are likely to consult multiple times over the course of the semester. This video is about where to begin finding scholarly sources on a topic for a paper or presentation about music. The best place to start your search is RILM Abstracts of Music Literature. Google is going to return mostly non-scholarly sources. I have included a link to the Brock Library catalog, but I don't think this is the best place to begin. To see why, let's pretend we're writing a paper about the music of Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. These appear to be entries for the actual game. Then we have some articles in a newsletter. These down here say article, but the spin-off does not sound like the title of an academic journal. We could get better results by playing around with the filter on the left side here. We're only interested in articles and book chapters and books and peer review journals. Let's apply these filters. Okay, we got 10 results now. That's a more reasonable number, but the results don't look especially promising. We're going to be writing a research paper about music, so an article in geoscience communication isn't going to be probably very helpful. Then we have an article in French in a psychology journal. Again, doesn't look very helpful. We have more psychology, human technology, gender representation. Actually, this looks like it could be interesting if we are interested in gender representation in the Legend of Zelda series. And then we have psychiatry, Buddhism. Again, that might be interesting if we're interested in Buddhism. And then we have climate crisis and more psychology or psychiatry. We haven't found any scholarly sources about music. If we add music to the search terms, we get fewer hits. The top one does look scholarly, but the title Game Music Part 2 Parameter Control suggests that its primary subject is not Breath of the Wild. It looks like Breath of the Wild is merely an example and may not comprise a large portion of this article. Let's see what we get on RILM. You will need to log in with your Brock ID and portal password. I've already done, oh, wait a sec, no, I have to do it again. Okay. Now this looks a lot more promising, exploring the narrative implications of emerging topics in The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The title doesn't mention music, but if you look at the source, it's the Journal of Sound and Music Studies in Games. So the fact is about music is obviously assumed. If you find a promising hit like this, click on it, and you'll get an abstract that will tell you a little bit more about what the article is about. So it's clear that this article is primarily about music in Breath of the Wild, particularly how the music emphasizes the contrast between the natural and the mechanistic. This source looks great, but one is going to need more than one source. If your topic is something quite recent or quite specific, you'll need to think a bit more broadly. And to help you do that, you can go to Oxford Bibliographies. This is a catalog of bibliographies compiled by experts in their fields. They have bibliographies on particular composers or musicians, topics like gender and sexuality in music, and genres like video game music. So we'll search video game. Every bibliography begins with a brief summary of the field. Take note of the date the bibliography was published to see how up to date it is. The bibliography itself is grouped into various topics. You can go to the section that most describes the approach that you'd like to take in your paper. If you don't know, you can't go wrong with picking something from general overviews or anthologies. I especially recommend chapters from anything from Oxford Handbook of X or Cambridge Companion to X. Since these books are intended as introductions, the chapters in these books are relatively short and intended for readers who are new to the subject. Since this bibliography was published in 2018, it doesn't have the Cambridge Companion to Video Game Music, published in 2021. If someone wanted to round out a bibliography of a paper on video game music, I would advise picking something from there. If you find an edited collection in RILM and click on it, you'll get a listing of all the chapters in the book. See if any of these chapter titles are of interest. If you click on one of these items, you can read an abstract that will tell you more about what the chapter is about. It's okay if the chapter doesn't use Breath of the Wild as an example. You could apply the approach described in the chapter to Breath of the Wild. If you still need more sources after seeing what there is on RILM and Oxford Bibliographies, you might consider seeing what there is on your topic and related fields by going to the Brock Library catalog. If you are writing about music and video games, you might be interested in reading about something in video game studies more broadly. Perhaps you're interested in scholarship on open world games or gender representation in games. The Breath of the Wild paper was an example of a paper where one didn't find very much about music and needed to broaden one's scope to video game music more generally, and possibly also video game studies or other fields. Let's say you run into the opposite problem. You find too many sources, even in RILM. This can happen if one is writing about an especially prominent figure. Let's say we want to write a paper about Beyonce. Just typing Beyonce in the search bar returned 540 hits. If we limit our search to just articles and books that have Beyonce as the main subject, we get somewhat fewer, 202, but that's still too many. Now we can use the filter functions on the left to narrow our search to, say, books and academic journals. That's a bit better, but still too many. If you really want to limit the results, you'll probably want to narrow your search to a particular album. Let's say Lemonade. Now we only have 60 sources. Since we did a new search, our previous filters need to be redone. For time, I'm not going to do that now. One thing to note is that most of these items are from the same two books, Beyonce and the World and The Lemonade Reader. Note that not all items you find in RILM are in Brock's collection. It turns out that these two items are in our collection. If you click on one of them and click on Find Full Text on the left, you will go to an item in Brock's library catalog that either says available online or provides a call number for a physical book in the library on the main campus. For books only available in physical form, the entry in Omni will look like this: James A. Gibson Library, 8th floor, and a call number. Let's say you don't feel like going to the main campus to get this item. If you sign in, you may request a scan. Note here that you need to provide a particular chapter title and ideally page range, but I've had requests fulfilled with just the chapter title. A librarian will find the item on the shelf, scan it for you, and email you the scan. It may take a day or two, so if you need the source right away, you should go in person. Let's say you clicked Find Full Text and it says not available locally. This means that Brock doesn't have this item, either online or in their physical collection. At this point, you can click Get it from another library. If it is an article, a PDF can usually be delivered to you within a day or two. If it's a book and you know the chapter you want, click this box and indicate which chapter or pages you want. If you don't know what section you want, or you want to read a large portion of the book, you will need to request that the physical book be delivered to Brock. This is possible, but it will take more time. A resource I consult on an almost daily basis for fact-checking is the New Grove Dictionary of Music and Musicians, which is now housed on Oxford Music Online. This is an online encyclopedia. Yes, it is easier to simply type the term or name in Google and read the Wikipedia entry. Some Wikipedia entries are well written and well researched, but not all. Remember that anyone can edit a Wikipedia entry. By contrast, Oxford Music Online commissions leading scholars to write articles. You can find articles on particular composers or musicians. There are articles on contemporary popular musicians such as Beyoncé, but they can be a bit short and may lack a bibliography. Let's try searching for Stephen Sondheim. You'll find a biography. Scrolling down, there's a list of works listed by genre: musicals, incidental music, which refers to music for spoken plays, music for TV and film, and some non-musical works. There's also a bibliography. One note of caution here: Grove articles are not updated very often, so the bibliographies are likely to be out of date. That's not to say that these sources aren't good, it's just to say that they may not be the most up-to-date sources. If you scroll back up to the top, you can see when the article was published. This article was originally published in 2012, but there was some sort of an update in 2020. That explains why the article does not give Sondheim's death date of November 26, 2021. It's not clear whether the update in 2020 included an updated bibliography. Returning to the bibliography, the most recent item appears to be from 2010. Obviously, the bibliography was not updated in 2020. You can also use Grove Music Online to find definitions of musical terms or histories of musical genres. Let's say you heard me mention the genre funk in lecture, and you want to know more about that. Oh, this article was written by David Brackett, one of my former professors at McGill. The initial paragraph will give you a brief definition, then the author will provide a history. Finally, there is a bibliography, but this article was published in 2001, so all the sources were published at least 20 years ago. In sum, Grove Music Online is a good place to find reliable biographies of composers and musicians, as well as definitions of musical terms and histories of musical genres. Take note of the date articles were published. You'll need that information if you want to cite the source in your bibliography, but it's also helpful in knowing whether the article is up to date. In general, I don't recommend looking to Grove Music Online to fill out your bibliography. You are better off searching RILM.